Okay, this is perfect. Here we go. No, I don't need it today. No. Thank you so much. Okay. We are
3B1?
3B1. 3B1 for those of you following in the art scroll. For anyone who's not following in the art scroll, we're on Daf Gimel Amud Bet. I started with Refuah Shlema Fachana about Sima Fega. Okay. Let's start with the Gemara. Amar Rava. We are 3B1, the last paragraph on the right side in the English, and if you're following in the Hebrew, you'll see it about 10 lines down from the top. Amar Rava. Pshitali, the Gemara says, Pshitali avodah mikra Megillah. If I'm discovering the difference, I'm checking the difference between avodah, between service of the Beit HaMikdash and mikra Megillah, I understand that if I have to do one or the other, then what we'll do is we'll do mikra Megillah first with Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. From the statement that we made earlier, Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, where we explained and we brought the proof from Talmud Torah to service in the temple, where Talmud Torah is more strict, and the Yeshiva Rebbe would undo even the Talmud Torah for the sake of Megillah. So therefore, we learn from Mishpacha u'Mishpacha that Kohanim and the Leviim and Israelim as well, they would skip their avodah, and there was a machloket, as we explained, whether it meant skip the avodah completely or just delay the avodah. But if it comes to avodah versus Mikra Megillah wins. Midesamchu shel Beit Rebbe, from the fact that Rebbe, the yeshiva of Rebbe, learned from a Kal Vachomer from Talmud Torah to avodah. The Gemara continues. Okay, what about Talmud Torah mitzvah? What if you have opportunity, people sitting learning together, and now we have in front of us an opportunity of a met mitzvah. So what do? Do we stop learning Gemara, or do we carry on learning Gemara and say, you know what, someone else will deal with it? The halacha is, on a met mitzvah, adif. A met mitzvah is more important. Meditanya, from the fact that it says in the Braita, mevatlin Talmud Torah leotzat met ulachnasat kala. The Braita says that we'll delay or even annul Torah study in order to be able to take the met to burial and to take the kala from her home to the chuppah. That's what it means, hachnasat kala. Most people read this Gemara, they read it incorrectly. Because when we say hachnasat kala, usually what we mean is raising money to be able to do the met, to do the wedding. Right? People collect for hachnasat kala. So it doesn't mean over here that we break Talmud Torah to raise money for a kala. It means that we'll do that in order to accompany her from her home to the chuppah. They used to go as a procession, and people would travel along, and that's the synonymous nature between that and taking someone to burial, which was also done as a processional achievement. I was at the funeral a short while ago from 67th Street, and the yeshiva next door has all the students studying Torah, and they saw the person pass away. The rabbi took all the people out, and they walked behind the children, and they're walking behind the car with the person that passed away. It was remarkable to see, but it is an exact living expression of this Braita, mevatlin Talmud Torah lehotza'at met. Just one important distinction I want to draw. It says over here lehotza'at met. It does not say lehotza'at met mitzvah. So the Gemara seems to change its description from one line to the next. Turn the page back. Talmud Torah met mitzvah, which is better? Met mitzvah, if met mitzvah trumps Talmud Torah from the Braita. Then the Braita says, mevatlin Talmud Torah lehotza'at met, to take out someone who's passed away. It doesn't say to take out hotza'at met mitzvah. What's the difference between met mitzvah and lehotza'at met? Hotza'at met just means a funeral, to accompany someone to their final resting place. Met mitzvah means you found him, there's nobody else. If you leave him here, he's rotting on the side of the road, Baraminan. So that mitzvah, met mitzvah, is considered to be extremely important mitzvah. So why did he phrase the question, Talmud Torah versus met mitzvah, as opposed to Talmud Torah versus hotza'at hamet, or kvurat met, if he meant met mitzvah, if he didn't mean only met mitzvah? The answer is because the proof that we're going to bring it from comes from met mitzvah, and it's unique to met mitzvah in that place. But with regards to our proof, it would be even including a regular funeral as well. Says the Gemara, avodah met mitzvah. What happens now if I have to weigh up avodah, the services in the temple, sacrificial services, versus met mitzvah, against met mitzvah, burying someone that has no one to bury them? Met mitzvah adif. we learned that mit mitzvah would be more important from the word ula'achroto. Now we have to recognize what is about to happen here. We're about to take a plane to another location. Okay, we're going to vacation there for a little bit of time, and then we're going to come back here. All right, so all aboard the private jet to the separate location. Okay, what's this separate location? And we're learning our idea of avodah being trumped by mit mitzvah from this other location. What's the other location? The other location is a Gemara, the expounding of a pasuk that has to do with Nazir. It's got nothing to do with our case here whatsoever. So what's a Nazir? A Nazir is someone that declares, Harini Nazir, he says, I am a Nazir. He could say how long he wants it to be. He could say it in an indiscriminate amount of time, and then it's automatically for 30 days. How long is this Nazirite oath? Depends on how much he puts it. But during whatever that period of time is, there's three things that a Nazir broadly needs to focus on. Number one, he cannot cut his hair. Number two, cannot drink wine. Number three, he cannot come into contact with dead bodies. Okay, so that's the obvious connection between our vacation destination and where we're coming back to. But let's look for 1 second at the pasuk. The pasuk is brought down here in the middle column, number bet. The pasuk says that a Nazir is not allowed to become tameh la'aviv, u'li'imo, u'la'achiv, u'la'achoto. He cannot defile himself to his father, to his mother, to his brother, to his sister. He has the prohibition. The commentators ask a very interesting question. Why is it that when it comes to a Kohen is allowed to become impure to his 7 close Kerovim? Everyone except for a Kohen Gadol. But a Nazirite is not allowed to.
One is by choice and one is, you're born upon.
Say it better. The reason why a Kohen is allowed to become impure for family is because his elevated holy status is a familial status. He gets it because he's part of the Kohen family. So therefore, in a scenario where he has his family and he's saying, look, I can't become impure. This is the whole reason why you can't become impure. So Kohen becomes impure to his family members. And Nazir, on the other hand, is his own personal oath. It's nothing to do with family. So therefore, Nazir is not even allowed to become impure to his own family members. Now, I want you to pay close attention. So we just listed 4 family members that he cannot come into contact with. How many family members did I tell you the Kohen is allowed to? 7. Does it say 7 here? No, 4. It says you can't do your father, can't do your mother, can't do your brother, can't do your sister. How come it doesn't say 7?
The rest might be
Stand now. Go back to get your mind born. Says the pasuk. Right? Lo yitama. Lo yitama lehem. He's not allowed to become tameh to them. Okay? The pasuk before this pasuk, okay, tells us lenefesh lo yitama le'amav. He's not allowed to become impure to anyone. And then it tells you he can't become impure to his father, can't become impure. You told me that he can't become impure to anybody. Now you're adding 4 more people that he can't become impure for?
So there has to be a carve out.
So therefore, we don't need 7, because by the Kohen, it was 7 exceptions. Here, these are 4 reiterations of a rule that I already know. You can't become impure for anybody. You can't become impure for your father, for your mother, for your brother, for your sister. Okay? Now, it is on this specific reiteration, or extra reiteration, that the Gemara is going to focus on. The pasuk says, at the end of it, it says, and to his sister. Ma Talmud lomar. What does that mean? Now, the Gemara is going to go back and explain. Sorry, let me quote you outside what the Gemara says. Now, follow me here. Because our Gemara doesn't bring down the whole Bereshah, it just brings down the last one. The Gemara says, a person is not allowed to become tameh to his father. It's telling you, I already told me you're not allowed to become tameh. Now you're telling me again? This series of extra things trying to tell you something. Your father you're not allowed to become tameh to, but there is someone that you are allowed to. Who is that? Met mitzvah. Okay? So the fact that it told you can't become pure to anybody, but also your father you can't become pure to. It's trying to tell you that your father you can't, but there is someone that you can. The unattended. Now hold on. What happens if your father's on the side of the road? Better than them. Of course you can attend. He's met mitzvah. So we're not talking about a scenario where the person's not going to get buried. There, it is itself a met mitzvah. met mitzvah means a body that, if not for you, is not going to get
Is
buried.
that like when you went to COVID? Like if you had to go, if you had someone alive and
COVID was a quasi met mitzvah because they were still burying people. But imagine,
burying, but if they couldn't have a minyan because of COVID, you were allowed to go even if you had a relative?
no, because met mitzvah doesn't mean a minyan. It means that the person's not going to get buried. So imagine, as an example, you're traveling along a deserted area, and you see a body in the... If you don't bury this person, it's going to be torn apart by vultures and wolves. You're not getting buried. That's the simple translation of a met mitzvah. Literally an unattended corpse. Okay? Sorry? Interesting question? Question? No. Okay, and we'll see why. Sorry? If you don't know, you don't know. But when it's a corpse, then you could see, you have the sign. Yeah, okay? Let's move on. Okay, so now, the Gemara is telling us something amazing. So therefore, why does it say, and your mother you can't? So each one of these, a double negative, what do we always say, is a positive. So you already told me no. Now you're telling me again no for the father? That gives you a yes. What is it? Met mitzvah. Now comes the Gemara and says, his wife, his mother, he also can't. That's giving you another positive. What's the positive?
That if she's
mitzvah.
met
Who?
mitzvah,
Yeah, but who's it including?
the mother.
No, the mother you can't. So who's it that then it's already over the father? So the Gemara says, I'm going to give you another scenario where you might not have thought met mitzvah would be included. So all these are going to include met mitzvah, but they're just going to include an add-on to the scenario. What if the guy is a Nazir and a Kohen? Says the Gemara, still buries. And it's still buries the met mitzvah.
Still qualifies as a kohen.
Because it still qualifies as a met mitzvah.
For a kohen. Oh, for either one.
Either one. It's a random met mitzvah. But we're learning that I might have thought double holiness means you're not allowed to.
What additional knowledge did being a Kohen bring there?
It was two prohibitions to be involved, to be impure. You're a Kohen, you can't do it, and a Nazir, you can't do it. No, they are. None of these are talking about themselves. All they're communicating is another example of some other positive expression of mitzvah. Okay? Now the Gemara comes and says, okay, but now Ula Achim, what about his brother? Another double negative that I don't need. The Gemara says it's also a positive. That is if the guy's a Nazir, it's coming to conclude he's a Nazir, and he's a Kohen Gadol. Right? So it's giving you all the variations of where you might have had a reason, yeah, but that's a regular Nazir, not a Kohen. That's a regular Nazir, not a Nazir, Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol met mitzvah it becomes impure.
I got a question for you.
Even if he's a Nazir. No, for Krovim, but for met mitzvah, yes. Okay? Got it?
You're allowed, basically, no matter who you are.
Pretty much, no matter who you are.
The other reason that it says kohen gadol and nazir is it's testing the theory which better negative.
Okay, so now we got to the height. There's no higher level of holiness than a Nazir Kohen Gadol. There has to be a better way. Says the Gemara, what does the Achotor add? The Kohen Gadol, right? Okay. That's what it says the Gemara. Hare, what does the Achotor add? Hare Shaya ulech lishchot et pischo ulamul et beno. If a person is traveling on the way and he's going to slaughter the Korban Pesach, or he's going to do Brit Milah for his son. Okay? In either one of these scenarios, one might have thought that the stopping to do met mitzvah. Now, by the way, machloket, if the Gemara means here, Nazir, Kohen Gadol, Shochet Pesach. Right? If it's adding another layer, or it's just sidestepping and saying another reason why a regular Nazir would be unable to bury this person. Okay? Or even not a Nazir. Korban Pesach, by the way, just so you understand. Korban Pesach, if you are impure, right, that's the whole story of Korban Pesach Sheni. So I'm going to lose out on my Korban Pesach if I'm impure. So when you tell me I want to bury net mitzvah, so you're going to tell me, fine, you know what, okay. But here, I'm going to miss the whole Korban Pesach for myself.
It's not like Torah says you can go back to
I can't go back to it later. I'm losing the whole Pesach. I'm going to get a Korban Sheni, maybe, Pesach Sheni. It's not the same thing. Second thing, hold on. Second idea that's brought in the Mefarshim is that the punishment for not doing Korban Pesach and for not doing Brit Milah, both of those karet. So So it's such a big avon to not do it. So the Gemara says, maybe I would have thought, look, of course I would do this any other time. Even if I was a Nazir, even if I was Kohen Gadol, but I'm on my way to do Korban Pesach. It's so important in the Torah. I can't bring it back there. Says the Torah, Ula Achoto tells you that for Met Mitzvah, you even undo Korban Pesach and you even lose Brit Milah. What I do not understand so clearly here is that there's no issue to do Brit Milah when you're Tameh.
Right. But you needed time.
Sorry?
You needed time.
Who cares?
You needed time
Maybe just delay the time is what you're saying. You missed the 8th day. That's a nice example. But it's not the tum'ah that's holding me up there. Okay? Okay, let's move on. So the Gemara therefore is proven, now back from vacation, we went all the way there to the Achator until we found an example that mitzvah trumps avodah. Why? Because the guy was on the way to do the Korban Pesach. Or the Kohen was going to become impure. What happens when he becomes impure? Can't do the avodah. So you see that met mitzvah trumps avodah in the Beit HaMikdash. That's how important it is to bury someone it's not going to be buried. You think to yourself, when in my life am I ever going to walk on a pathway in the middle? I don't know if anyone here signed up on the Citizen app.
No.
You're in New York City, Citizen app. This guy was killed, that place was robbed, these 9 people died in a bank robbery in Harlem. But Citizen and deal. Cat walking down Crosby Avenue. I kid you not. I kid you not. Cat walking. Dog lost with the cat. Right? That's what Citizen app is in New Jersey right now. But why am I raising this to you? All right, they're just super simple. Right? Right? You think to yourself, I'm a walking deal, and then nobody's around, someone's going to die on some side road, everyone's going to find him in the Citizen app. Right? That's the case. But how's this going to happen? Unfortunately, now we have more mitzvah than ever as a creation. We have loads of people that are not going to be buried. They have relatives that don't know or don't care about Jewish law. They're going to burn them to ashes. So every single one of those people is a mitzvah. Absolutely. You're bringing him to burial, literally, as opposed to annihilation. And according to many opinions, in the case of cremation, unless it's done against the will of the person, it costs the person his what's it called? Psycho.
Current mitzvah.
Yes. So we never had so many mitei mitzvah as we have right now in the Jewish people. The numbers are insane. Something like 70%. Psycho. So if you want,
Want to pay for
because it's cheaper, because there's something with the environment, let me use this. If a person wants, we just learned how it like trumps everything pretty much, mitzvah. So, that's a great mitzvah to get your hands on if you want, okay? To either approach the people and try and convince them, or to raise the money to be able to do it, or to speak to the right people. Not always not always is the right way to take care of mitzvah, to do it through the channels in our community. Because it became very expensive to bury people in our community. There are much less expensive ways of burying people if you don't belong to a certain community and or address. Okay? I'm sorry, I don't understand. No, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. No, unless there's a case of pikuach nefesh, in which case the halakha would change. So let's say there's a scenario where someone's going to die, and that practically it almost never takes place. Because in order to save someone's life, you need to take it from the guy when he's alive, in which case you're killing him, in which case we're not allowed to do it. So it's very rare that there is a case. If there was such a case, then pikuach nefesh would trump the law of not defiling the body. Okay? So therefore, what do we learn from that? We learn from the Achotor. So let's just read the Gemara. The time the Achotor not only the Gemara, there's a pasuk saying, he's going to do the Korban Pesach to do the Brit Milah. Shamash met lo met, and he finds out that someone from his relatives passed away. I would think we understand it. I understand that the person does now not become Tameh. I would think now, just like you don't become Tameh in such a scenario, to a family member where someone else is dealing with it, in order to be able to do the Brit Milah, in order to be able to go do the Korban Pesach, so too we would say the same thing for Met Mitzvah. The Gemara says, no, to tell you that but he does become Tameh for a Met Mitzvah. So what do we learn from here? In the end of all of this, We now come over in full circle to understand that met mitzvah trumps avodah in the Beit HaMikdash. Now the Gemara says, Bayi Rabba. Rabba asks a question. Mikra Megillah, met mitzvah, how do I adif? When I come across a scenario of Mikra Megillah versus met mitzvah, so which one is more important? Because in each one of these cases, I told you how important Mikra Megillah is, and it trumps all these things. Then I tell you how important met mitzvah is, it trumps all those things. Okay. Now in this corner, now this is what they call the title fight, right? So the title fight is Mikra Megillah v. met mitzvah. Why? Says the Gemara. How do I adif? Which is better? The Gemara says, Mikra Megillah, do I say Mikra Megillah is better, stronger, Bishum Pirsumei Nisa, because it carries within it the spreading of the miracle of Akadosh, and we see how much of a dagesh we put on that with regards to the halakha. So do I say Mikra Megillah is better because of the spreading of the miracle? Maybe Met Mitzvah is bigger because of Kavod HaBeriyot, because of the extreme lengths that Judaism goes to preserve the dignity of people. The Gemara says after Rabbah asked himself asked the question, he was poshet, he answered his own question. How did he answer it? Met mitzvah is even more important than Mikra Megillah. Why? Because our rabbi taught us, Gadol Kavod HaBeriyot, great is Kavod HaBeriyot, the dignity that we maintain for human beings, it even manages to push off a negative commandment in Torah. Up until now, what were we talking about? One positive commandment trumping another positive commandment. Here we're talking about now a positive commandment trumping a negative commandment. What positive commandment do we find that trumps a negative commandment in Torah? The Gemara does not say it. Rashi gives us the answer. The answer is that when if you want to see Rashi, take a look at Rashi. Rashi says on the side, it lo ta'aseh, it's right smack dab in the middle. Dichtiv, because the pasuk says lo tuchal hit'alem. When it comes to a lost object, you're walking in the street, you see a lost object, you think to yourself, Hajj, I don't have time, I'm on my way to a meeting, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to pick up this lost object and now busy myself with trying to find its owner. Pasuk says, lo tuchal hit'alem, you're not allowed to turn away. Uchtiv, and the pasuk also says, v'hit'alamta, and you will turn away. So the pasuk seems to contradict itself. One time it says, you shall not turn away. One time it says, and you will turn away. What is it coming to tell you? Says the Gemara, Bava Mitziyah, Pamim, Shatam Ta'alem, that there are some times when a person is allowed to turn away from the lost object. Kigon, what's the case? The Gemara says, Kigon Zaken, when he is an elderly Torah scholar, and it's not according to his dignity. As an example, let's say there's a big sack of cow poop, fertilizer. A farmer leaves on the side of the street. Lost object, has value. Now, the Chacham Ovadia Yosef walking down the street, he sees a lost object that has a siman. Cow fur. Is the Chacham Ovadia the great rabbi of the generation? Is he now obligated to schlep the sack of garbage home, smelling the whole way, calling out who lost the fertilizer? It's not according to his kavod to do that. So in that case, the halakha is, there are times you're allowed to turn away. What do we see? That for the sake of kavod haberiyot, there are times when we will override even a negative commandment of lo tuchal hit'alem. Okay? So therefore, since that's the case, since we see kavod haberiyot has a power to override a lo ta'aseh, a negative commandment, we're going to say that it trumps met mitzvah as well. Pikuach nefesh being doche Shabbat, that's not kavod haberiyot.
No, I know that, but you said there was an example of positive trumping negative.
Yeah,
right?
yes.
Isn't that the same thing? Isn't that a positive trumping a negative?
Not really, because pikuach nefesh is not a mitzvah. It's like a supra mitzvah. It's like a meta mitzvah. It's something which isn't. But it's baked in from the beginning.
It's not one of the 613 you're saying.
Like the pasuk explicitly says, these are the mitzvot that you should keep, right? B'chai b'hem, and you shall live in them. And the Gemara says, lo shemut b'hem. So it takes all of Torah,
Super mitzvah.
and it excludes everything from the case of pikuach nefesh, except for the big three of idolatry, adultery, and murder. Okay. So now, the Gemara continues. So therefore, what do we learn from there? We learn...
Considered a negative mitzvah? You said a positive.
Positive says, don't break Shabbat.
What don't do is a negative.
Don't work on Shabbat is a negative commandment.
Okay.
Remember Shabbat, which is Kiddush, is a positive mitzvah. Give tzedakah, positive mitzvah. Okay? Sorry?
Is remember Shabbat and don't
Those are two separate. So Shabbat has a lo ta'aseh and an aseh. Shamor v'zachor. One is negative, one is positive. Shabbat has both. Okay? Shabbat has many instances of both. But as an example, anytime the Torah says don't, that's a lo ta'aseh. So there are many mitzvot aseh that could bump off another mitzvah aseh. Why? Because I should do this, but I should also do this. When a should do comes up against a shouldn't do, for that to knock off that is a big deal. Okay? Now, there's a whole sugya in Yevanot called aseh dochel lo ta'aseh. But that's not to be confused with this. That's another concept that we'll need to deal with that. Here we're talking about two things that neither of them is a mitzvah midoraita specifically. Avodah beriyot is a concept. Pirsumei Nisa, the mitzvah of reading Megillah is midrabanan, but it's a concept. Pirsumei Nisa. So don't confuse this case with aseh dochel lo ta'aseh, which is another thing you're bringing up. Okay? So therefore, the end result is that mitzvah is so strong that it even trumps Mikra Megillah. Now the Gemara continues. Gufa. We learned earlier. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Yeshua ben Levi taught. Krach, the walled city. V'chol hasamuch lo, and everything that's next to it. V'chol ha'nirah lo, and everything that's seen with the city. So we explained everything that you could see from that city. Imagine a walled city, and then around the city you have open villages, you have open towns that are all kind of. Many times that you can have that would be the protection. So in a case of war, all the people from all the surrounding villages and towns, they would move back, retreat into the walled city for protection. But in a normal scenario, when they weren't at war, they wanted more space, they lived outside of the wall, right? Okay. So in a case where you have a walled city and cities around it, all of those cities, anything which is close to it, anything which is seen, nir'ah elav, seen from it, nir'ah imo, seen with it, don't get that is considered to be part of the walled city. So now the Gemara says, hold up. You just gave me two things, two different words. One word was nir, one word was seen, which is the condition. Gemara says, Tana, we learned, samuch afal pi she'eno nirah, close even if it can't see it from the city. Nir'ah, seen from the city, afal pi she'eno samuch, even if it's not close. Meaning that it is an either or. It is an or, not an and, that we're talking about here in this conditional statement. So all the cities that are around the walled city, either that are close, but not, even if they're not seen, or that are seen from the city, even if they're not close, both of those would be considered in the purview and domain of the walled city. Gemara says, hold up. Bishlema, I understand practically, where you can see a city even if it's not close. What would that be? When the city was on the top of a mountain. So, even though it might be very far away, right, but I'm able to see it because I have a clear line of sight to the city. From the walled city. What's the case of something which is close but you can't see? It's right there. If you told me it's close, obviously you can see the two of them together, or you can see one from the other. Answers the Gemara, how would you find such a scenario? The Gemara answers, Megilla explained, the case is talking where this external city sits in the bottom of a valley, and the walled city is on the top of the mountain. So therefore, it's impossible to be able to see the city from within the walled city because you can't see, you're blocked by the height, you can't see beneath you. So therefore, that will also be considered to be adjunct to the walled city. Now, the reason why I think the Gemara is bringing this out is like, well, you couldn't figure out that how you can see, where you can't see. That's what I need the Gemara to tell me. I think the Gemara is saying something here very powerful. The Gemara is saying that we're judging the external city to be part of the internal city. Part of that is because they rely on the walled city for their protection. Correct? Mm-hmm. If you're at the top of the mountain, to get to the walled city at the bottom, that's easy. But if you're at the bottom of the valley and the walled city is on the top of the mountain, it's as difficult for you to get into the walled city as it is for the enemies. Okay. So maybe you would understand that a unwalled city next to a walled city, which is beneath it, which you need to scale the cliff in order to get in. You're not part of that city at all. So that was the chidush that the Gemara is giving you over here.
I thought you just said that was.
I'm saying, but if that's a chidush, you would think that it's not, because how difficult that's a very difficult feeling to communicate, that these people are under the protection of the city at the top. You're treated as the same way as the enemy. You're down at the bottom. It's very difficult to get. I think that's why the Gemara went out of its way to explain to you both of these scenarios. Okay, the Gemara continues. And Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi also said. Now, there's two ways of understanding this Gemara. Okay, we'll see in just a minute. If this Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is just another thing that Yeshua ben Levi said, disconnected, but tenuously linked, or if he's continuing along the same thread. Says the Gemara. Let's say you have an unwalled city that people put down roots. They built houses everywhere. And the Basofet at the end, they added a wall after they built all the houses. In that scenario, the city is treated as if it's an unwalled city. Even if, you understand? Wow. Even if now it has a wall. Why? Because all the people moved into, they don't live in a walled city. They built a wall around an unwalled city. And that sounds like a crazy thing. Right? What does that mean? That sounds like tax code. Right? Says the Gemara. We'll see in just a second what the logic is there. And the Gemara now brings a proof. Because the Pasuk says, now this Pasuk has nothing to do with Mikra Megillah. This is talking about the end of Parashat Behar, when when a person buys a house. Let's say I buy a house from you. What do we say afterwards? Do you have any right to come back to me and say I want the house back?
No, transfer title.
Of course not. Transfer title? You didn't even tell me. Look, I'll pay you better. I'll pay you, let me pay you. You can't force me to sell it back to you. It's mine. Right?
But if you want to sell it,
if you want to sell it, you're allowed to sell it, obviously.
do I have a right to buy it first?
I don't think so. That would be Dina de Bar Mitzvah if I live adjacent, okay?
Neighbor, right? Yeah.
That neighbor has Dina de Bar Mitzvah, okay? Here's the interesting, this is so fascinating. Okay, this is so interesting, this concept. But in the time of Yoshua, when each person's home, it was more than just a home that I chose to live in Myrtle Beach or San Diego or South Africa, wherever I chose to build myself a house because I like the view or the food or the water or the people. No, that was my ancestral inheritance. Everyone from the tribe of Binyamin lived together as a tribe of Binyamin. This is my family land. Now I fell on hard times. I had to sell my house. So you bought the house. Says the Pasuk, right? The person has an opportunity to redeem his house. Doesn't mean any house. We're talking about a house that belongs to a person that's part of his inheritance, his heritage and his ancestral inheritance. Oh. Sorry? Yes. Okay, now, there's two different cases. One case is where the house is in a walled city. One case the house is not in a walled city. And the Pasuk itself describes a difference between them. One of them, you can redeem it after you have 1 year to be able to redeem. One of them, you have to 50 years to be able to redeem to the end of Yovel. Okay? Now, by the way, the first time I read this, I thought this was insane. Kind of no backs in this. Then I realized, sorry, what? That was the first time. But then you know what I realized? All over the place, this is happening. So many of the property deals that happen in New York City are land leases. Now you get it for 99 years, but no one blinks an eye about the 99-year lease that I got for the Twin Towers, right? That they did before it fell. Okay, so that everybody we know. That of course. In England, there are whole cities you cannot buy. They belong to freehold, leasehold, right?
Regent Street. Most of Regent Street and Oxford Street.
Yeah, the whole area of Victoria, Mayfair, right? That whole area, it belongs to the Queen. You have to ask permission, formal permission from the Crown to change a plug. That's the change now. I mean, this is her land. So too over here as well. And the way to understand it is, it's not that when you buy it, now you can get messed over, the guy can come back whenever he wants and buy it. He didn't have the right to sell it without holding on to a string. when they gave him this piece of land as being from this family, from this tribe, the idea was we wanted you to keep it forever. Will there be a scenario where it will leave? Yes. There'll be a time that he won't be able to redeem it. Who's able to redeem it if he's not able to redeem it? Other family members. How do I know that? Megillat Ruth. In Megillat Ruth, Boaz is going to marry Ruth. And he tells the other family member, he says, guys, there's all the lands that belong to Elimelech, to Machlon, to Chilion. Do you want to redeem their lands? And the guy says his name is Ploni Almoni. One opinion is that was his real name. One opinion is Ploni Almoni is that John Doe. Right? Because the guy lost out on that marrying Ruth. Hamoaviyah lost out on having David HaMelech come from him. Okay? And what happened in that moment? Okay? He says, yeah, sure, of course I'll go redeem the lands and the houses and everything that belong to them. Great, fantastic. He says, but in the day that you redeem houses, you also need to take on the surviving, the wife of Machlon, Ruth, and you need to come and bring a child into the world to preserve his soul. Now, I always love that idea because there's a synonymous nature between you keeping alive the person's name in a case where they had no children, okay, and redeeming the home, redeeming the homestead, okay. This is my family's land. This is my heritage. This is my parcel.
Energizing the bloodline.
Reanimating, exactly, okay. Now, this idea that helps us understand what's going on over here. So he tells the guy, "You want to take the land? No problem. You got to marry the girl also, and you should have children from her to keep alive the name of Machlon, and to keep alive the name of Elimelech, of the family name." The guy says, "I can't do that." He says, "Okay, you forfeit marrying her. You also forfeit redeeming the land." So you see, there's an example. And by the way, there's a line, there's an order of kurva, who's closer, and just like that in the kingdom, and the king, who's closer to the king, to the prince. So who's closer is the person who has the first chance to be able to. And that's what Boaz says. There's someone who's closer than me. Let me go see if he wants to. And if he doesn't, then I will. Okay?
So let's say they sold the house, someone wants to buy it back a couple years later. What's the increase? CPI?
So that's a very good question. And the Gemara actually explains that it depends on the amount of years that have passed. Because how much benefit did he get from the purchase, and that we take that off of the price that he paid, etc., etc. Okay? But the guy doesn't wind up losing. He doesn't wind up losing anything. He just loses the ride.
The original buyer.
Yeah, he just loses the ride. But by the way, flip side of it, what happens if the market goes down? But the guy paid X. You still have to pay X minus years, right, even though it's not worth it. And he can't force you to say it's less than market value. So there are times it works for the buyer.
Bite of the apple.
Sometimes it works for the buyer, sometimes it works for the seller. Okay, let's move on. So the Gemara here says, you just told me that there's a differential between redeeming a home in a walled city versus redeeming a home in an unwalled city. So the Gemara says over there, when you sell bet moshav, a residential home. This is only residential, guys. It says bet moshav, not the commercial boys that. Yep. Bet moshav ir choma. A residential home, ir choma, in a city that has a wall. So the pasuk is indicating that you purchased the residence that was in a walled city. Not that you purchased the residence and then built a wall. In order for it to be considered, this house was a house in a walled city, it's only relevant, the halakha is only such if the city was walled already from the time when you purchased it. So therefore, we're learning from here the difference between an idea of when the wall has to be built in order for it to be considered a walled city. Now, let me just throw this. So machloket right now in the Mefarshim. One opinion says that the connection here is nothing to do. It's just we're talking about walled, unwalled. We're talking about Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. We brought another Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi on this. By the way, and it's easier connected than other ones because at least it's about walled, unwalled cities. Yeah, exactly. At least it's somewhat relevant. It's not just Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Also said something else about horses. Okay, but however, the other opinion says no. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was learning from that Gemara that if the Torah says a walled city, and we do it to Rashat to say that a walled city is only a walled city that was walled before the homes were built, Exactly. We're learning that walled city needs to pre-exist the homes that are built versus post.
But we said at the time of Yehoshua.
Correct.
So this doesn't say that. It says pre-existing the homes built.
Correct.
So therefore, it should be still right on the 14th.
No, again, you would still require, in both cases you would require a wall from the time of Yehoshua. In either scenario.
Okay.
Because that's how we hold, right?
Right.
But the question would be, what if you have a city from the time of Yehoshua? But the city is there from the time of Yehoshua. The walled city was walled, but the city was built first. No! In the time of Moshe, before Yeshua, a bunch of guys living in a house. They hear the Jews are coming, they're like, forget this. They build a wall. So it's walled in the time of Yeshua, but the city is not a walled city.
So far off.
It's just a city that they built the wall right after.
One second. Time out.
Yes.
Rabbi, when you have homes built first,
Yes.
and then you
Build a wall and then it's a walled city.
In both cases, it's
a walled city.
In both cases, a walled city.
Walled anymore.
But it's not, the city pre-existed its walled state. Sorry?
Why would you build? In what circumstance would you build a wall first?
So I think that this is exactly the answer. Hold on. Let's not depart from this. I think this is the answer. In what possible scenario would you build a wall before you build homes?
It was a fortress.
Boundaries.
When the wall from that time already, from the minute before you even built your house, was there as a protective element between the enemies and you and yourselves. That means that this place was already designated before anyone moved in as a place that was important, it was protected. Yeah.
I think of Flea Bottom and King's Landing.
I don't know. By the way, and we're talking about from the time of Yehoshua, so I don't know exactly when that is set, but you have to find out exactly when that is relevant. But you with me. So the idea is exactly what Mars is saying. If everyone just moved into a vacation village, and then after that point, we built a wall around it, that means that the thing that I bought, this city, is a vacation city. It's not a city that's important, worth defending, important economically, strategically. So it's the chashivut. Which cities did they build walls around? Areas that were inherently chashuv, even without the city in them. It was an important area to be able to defend. Yeah.
You said it like a couple of places ago that Shushan, they had the extra time because it took longer for them to finish the battle.
Because they got the extra day. They got the extra day to defend the city.
So
yes.
That's what, so in this case, when we say walled cities, we're really using it was a defensive mechanism for a walled city.
I think that these terms, they're circular. They were defended, but they were defended because they were important. And the proof of that is whatever scenario would you have where you had a walled city before you had buildings in it. And the answer is, if you have a ridge, that if you take this ridge, you take Israel. That, as an example, if someone built a walled city on top of the Golan Heights is one of the most, there's nothing there, but it's one of the most strategic places for Israel. Today, the Golan Heights is almost irrelevant. Why? Because you have flipping planes and missiles. But back then, the only way to get in was over those mountaintops. So if you defended the mountaintop, and you just shot down, or they would roll stones, or they would take burning hot pitch from the top to the bottom, you could effectively protect it very easily. So many Israeli soldiers lost their life at a place called Givat HaTachmoshet, with ammunition zone. Why? Because whoever controlled ammunition cells right where I lived on Rehov Machal, if you control Jerusalem. That area is an area which has inherent importance. Okay? If you had an area that was built along the river, that city would be, maybe not for war purposes, but for commerce purposes, a city that anyone would want to take. So therefore, the importance of that city would be such that anyone would want to defend the land whether or not anyone actually lived there. Because I need to control this piece of land. And therefore, the chashivut of it indicates or dictates. Okay? Now, I think we're going to continue for next week. We'll continue next week from 3b3. Oh, so